Wingstop lives flavor, and you crave it. That's why we've created the Boneless Flavor Fix for you and your crew. 20 boneless wings, 4 flavors, 2 fries, 2 dips, and 2 cold drinks for just $20. Whether it's lemon pepper, Louisiana rub, or atomic, finding your flavor combo is easy, but deciding who you're going to split it with, that's a different story. The Boneless Flavor Fix. Just $20 for a limited time at Wingstop. The wing experts. Prices and participation may vary. See local restaurant for details.
Blog Talk Radio.
Indeed. Hooray for Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robert Winfree here today on Damn You Hollywood, and Mark and I will be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming. I apologize in advance for my contributions to this particular show. I am double booked at the moment, so I'm actively doing something else. I'm going to do my best for you guys. But if I'm not on my usual game, that's why. I don't think this will be a regular thing. Again, last minute kind of double booking, so we're just gonna see how this goes. So my apologies again in advance, but Mark's here to carry me for once, instead of the other way around. How you doing, Mark?
Lost move, and we ain't got nothing to prove. Lost move, and we ain't got nothing to prove. Come on now, join me in singing the Foosh Snickens. Lost move, and we ain't got nothing to prove.
I have
Lost
absolutely
move.
no frame of reference for what you just said.
It's Lush Move from the Fooshnickens. They can rap backwards. Did you know that? The Fooshnickens were very famous, relatively famous in a very regional way for rapping backwards. Isn't that impressive? Can't you just wait for us to do a special Metal Hammer of Doom, Mark's Rap Metal playlist, and be our special guest? And you get to hear all the greats, like the Fooshnickens, Lost Move, and we ain't got nothing to prove, Lost Move. Eh?
I think we can all now very reliably imagine the date of my death.
I am going to cull a list of the 10 great rap metal songs for you to listen to prove that there is some rap out there that you can moderately tolerate.
You have presented an interesting hypothesis. We will find out during the experiment.
Yes, that's what this is. It's absolutely a scientific experiment.
It's a scientific method in real time, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Should be duplicated somewhere across the world. Find a guy who detests rap music and everything about it and force him to listen to it. See what happens. We need more of this sort of thing. Third try at this. I do have bad news for you, though. So the good news was that I was dedicating an entire Metal Hammer of Doom to torturing. I mean, to exposing you to rap that I think you should listen to, because you said you didn't know who House of Pain was, and now I won't get off this. Welcome to Jesse Starcher's fucking life, by the way. This is what he offhandedly mentioned something, and I go, no, this will not stand, and then I obsess over it and force things on him. So you're the new GOAT. But the bad news
of the Scape
is...
variety, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the acronym for greatest of all time. This is the Scapegoat.
Oh, not even close. Not even close. Now, we'll talk about this more when we get to the money, but Transformers The Last Night, while it's not tearing up the charts like the previous movies have, it's still the ninth movie worldwide in terms of box office receipts. It is literally just behind Boss Baby.
Well, considering
Boss
those
Baby,
both suck and neither should be that high, I don't think this bodes well for our society.
It's Boss Baby at number 8 at $496 million. Transformers The Last Night at also $496 million. And Despicable Me at $449 million. And then The Mummy at $385 million. That's number 11. So I just wanted you to know that despite the fact that the Transformers was pretty much universally panned and isn't nearly as financially successful as the previous movies, it's still number 9th in the world. And I wanted you to know that.
Okay. I just also do need to note that we're not entirely sure it's made financial profitability at this point.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look again. But
it had a $260
million
budget.
Yeah, not even close then. But it's still number 9th in the world. That's how we're doing this year.
Terrible year,
come back
Mark.
to that later on.
Terrible.
You know what's bombing?
Terrible year.
Fuck. You know what's bombing? What might turn out to be the worst in terms of box office receipts? The worst Pixar movie of all time? Fucking Cars. Cars 3, as a matter of fact. It's currently sitting at $194 million. Behind Smurfs, The Lost Village. Sony's Smurfs, The Lost Village has made more money so far than Cars 3 by Pixar. Can you even handle this?
I can live with it. Cars is a terrible franchise. Much as I thought the third one didn't suck, there's not a lot of goodwill built up there.
Well,
and the Smurfs,
as I said,
the Smurfs are terrible, but people are stupid. I have come to accept this.
My family enjoyed it. Lush
Alrighty.
We ain't got nothing to prove. Lush move. Want me to sing a different rap song to you?
No, I really don't. All right. So again, my apologies about my quality this evening, given that I'm actively covering Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender series. Again,
right.
I do not think
we
we'll be doing this next week.
Robert Winfree should have started Rap Against Phony Entertainers. That's a line from a Third Base song. Pop Goes the Weasel.
Alrighty. Also, apologies to anyone who happens to be reading my coverage, because I'm doing this at the same time as well. You both get the short end of the stick.
Oh, my God. Move on with the review already.
All right, moving on. Moving on to Spider-Man Homecoming.
Nobody cares about Dana White and stupid UFC.
That's fundamentally untrue, but if you meant this show specifically, you're probably more accurate.
Sure.
No, there's a lot of people who care about the UFC. A lot of them now losing their jobs
my God.
because... All right. Anyway, moving on to Spider-Man Homecoming. One of the most anticipated movies of the year is a general rule here. Spider-Man finally being done by Marvel, not Sony, because Sony sucks. Sony kind of sucks.
Yep.
I have zero faith in their Venom standalone movie, despite Tom Hardy being in it, because Sony has demonstrated zero aptitude. So, Mark, because I have an excuse to do this now, what were you expecting going into this? What was your... I mean, you and I were both reasonably excited about this. What did you expect?
Well, in Marvel we trust. Marvel seldom puts out a bad product. I mean, their worst movies are still better than most in terms of, widespread appeal, action-oriented movies. I mean, they're not making art house films here, but they have a good track record of making big movies that appeal to mass audiences. And why would Spider-Man be any different? After Tom Holland's portrayal of Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War last year, I expected good things. The more I saw of the footage from the movie, in terms of trailers, it was very clear what they were going for. And I'll say this right off the bat, because I'm probably going to have to repeat it later, especially when we get to the Rotten Tomato reviews, that, Spider-Man is not Iron Man or Captain America or Thor. His character for the longest time was not a master of his powers. He was a kid who had a happy accident and had no mentors and bit off more than he could chew and fucked up a lot. He, in large part, was the reason Gwen Stacy got tossed out a window by the Green Goblin.
She died.
Yes. Generally speaking, when you get tossed out a window, you fall to your death.
Well, he caught her at the last second, and the whiplash broke her neck because he, despite being a genius, does not apparently understand physics.
I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the comic book.
I know, that's what happened to her.
Did it? Okay, I thought she just went splat. But in any case, for years, I mean, it took a long time for Spider-Man to mature and really get a handle on his powers and not be a menace to society. And the other element that they brought to this, which I really liked, was that this Spider-Man is now living in a world where he is a child who got to be an Avenger for the day. And what's that effect on someone? If for one day you could be part of this team of gods, and then you're told go back to your life, your humdrum life, how would you react? And I was excited about how they were going to handle that. And in large part, it paid off. In large part, they did not disappoint. That's the crux of this movie. Is what does Peter do now that he has to go back to the to the ground when he was living among the gods for just a brief moment. He got to touch the sun for a few seconds, and now he has to go back to Earth. How is he going to live with himself? How is he going to live with other people? And I loved that aspect of the movie. So just judging from what I saw in the trailers, things like jumping on the bed going, Mr. Stark treats me like a child, but you are a child, that sort of thing. I'm going to address this up front, and maybe we'll get around to talking about it again, but I really don't want to. I just kind of want to bring it up now, get it out of the way, and sort of forget it. Spider-Man, the comic book, was written in the 60s for a largely white male audience. So the characters were largely white. Peter Parker was a white boy. Flash Thompson was a white boy who was also the bully. And Mary Jane was white, and Gwen Stacy was white, and it was a reflection of the people that was expected to buy the book. It's 2017, and it would largely be expected that Peter, if you're putting him in a contemporary society, would be surrounded by a diverse racial cast.
Especially in contemporary Queens.
So for people who are like Flash Thompson, who are like sending the kid who plays Flash Thompson, who, by the way, made an appearance on last week's movie fights, if anyone's interested, death threat.
Yeah, who cares? You
people need to get fucking lives. And I'm just going to spoil this right up front. While I'm not wazooey about them calling Zendaya's Michelle character MJ and basically saying that's Mary Jane Watson if that is indeed what they're doing, and I believe it is. It's not that it's because it's Zendaya and Zendaya is not white, as near as I can tell. It's that her portrayal of this Michelle character doesn't resemble any version of Mary Jane Watson, the character, regardless of race, that I've ever seen.
Also doesn't resemble anything approaching an interesting character.
Well, we can talk about that. But I just want to draw, one parallel. She's sitting in detention, and the teachers ask her, "Why are you here? You don't need to be here." And she goes, "I like to draw people in despair." That's not in any way comparable to you. Boy, did you hit the jackpot, tiger. So, I don't care that if they want to make Zendaya Mary Jane Watson, I'm perfectly fine with that. But make her be Mary Jane Watson, then don't reinvent this fucking character as an emo goth chick. Just don't use the character then. Don't use Mary Jane. At least Flash Thompson was still a bully. We got that right at least. But, yeah, I was fine with the diverse racial cast. I was fine with the wholesale creation of Ned. I thought it was we'll talk about this when we get into the review, but I thought giving Spider-Man someone to play off of worked very well in a cinematic format. All of that was great. For the people who are very much caught up in the race aspect of the casting, walk into traffic.
That's kind of what I wish Ned would have done, mind you, but I'll get to that.
Okay.
All right. Here's your warning for spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. I'm going into my plot synopsis as these two schmucks trade body kicks.
All right.
We open with...
Hang on. Before you get into this, I just want to invite people to bet on how many times Winfree stops giving a synopsis and runs into editorial on the movie. Okay? The over-under is 8 times.
Take the over, guys. I'll tell you right now. Take the over. All right. We open in the immediate aftermath of the Battle of New York. We were introduced to Adrian Toomes, played by Michael Keaton, as they're doing some cleanup. This is rapidly halted by various government agencies who don't want the average Joe to be exposed to alien technology, lest chaos descend upon us.
It's stopped by damage control.
I have no frame of reference for what that might be beyond what they call themselves, so my apologies if that's a reference.
It is. Damage Control is a 4-issue limited series about the government-sponsored construction crew that specifically cleans up after superhero messes. It was very funny.
I will take your word for it.
Damage Control. Go on.
Anyway, Mr. Toomes objects to this because he put a lot of money and invested quite heavily into being able to get this contract with the city and clean up, and then, again, it's the typical kind of, this is my big break moment. This is the one, if I can get through this, then we will have reached the promised land of milk and honey. Or at least staved off immediate financial ruin.
Stop looking at the TV and do your synopsis.
Sorry.
You stink of distraction.
I know. Anyway. Again, they're halted. However, Toomes, who is now in a rather desperate financial situation, given that, hey, I invested all this time and money, and now I can't cash in on it. So he and his crew wind up stealing a lot of money. Sorry, not a lot of money. They steal a bunch of this alien technology to then weaponize and resell on the black market because Toomes frequently mentions he's got a family, a wife, and he can't, he's got to provide like you do when you're a father. Fast forward 8 years to the immediate aftermath of the events of Civil War, and we are introduced to Peter Parker yet again. And we get a little home video that he made. During part of the actual battle, we get to see Ant-Man again. And he is dropped back off. This is all very brief. He is then dropped back off at his home. We get one of the famous scenes from the previews with him and Tony Stark talking. And he wants to be an Avenger. He tries to set up for his next mission. And it just doesn't come. He's passing up school opportunities. He's dropping out of extracurricular activities. And he just wants to be an Avenger really, really badly. But it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. He's being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's helping lost Dominican ladies. He's stopping people from breaking into their own cars. It's just about a 50-50 split between him actually doing good and kind of tripping over his own feet while going through the process of wanting to be an Avenger. Then near the end, he gets to do some actual crime stopping as there's people robbing ATMs with technology that they with weapons that they purchased from tombs. They get away, but this is finally kind of his big break. He tries to talk with Tony Stark about this, and Tony just kind of blows him off. Not completely blows him off, but just doesn't necessarily pay as much attention as Peter thinks he should get. This is interspersed with him struggling to be a teenager, because teenagers, he's got a crush on a girl who barely knows he exists. He's got one friend, and he's just struggling like Joe Quesada thinks Spider-Man should struggle for the rest of his life. This show reeks of Quesada's influence. So after Tony tells him basically, okay, thanks for the information, stay out of this, he can't stay out of it. He wants to prove himself. He has another encounter with a couple of the goons as they're trying to sell more of the tech. This goes badly, but he's able to track them. They wind up in Washington, D.C., where he half foils a robbery, but gets locked in one of the storage containers that are picked up by damage control. He breaks out in time to try and warn his best friend about the bomb in his backpack because they stole one of the bits of alien technology that when exposed to radiation becomes a bomb. It passed through a metal detector, an X-ray machine, It's now weaponized. He saves the day at kind of the last second as they nearly plummet from the top of the Washington Monument. He gets a little kudos after he saves this particular day because this is the type of thing Tony thinks he should be doing. In the interim, he tracks these weapons to a big weapons sale. There's a cameo by Donald Glover. I don't know why he's a thing, but he is. Which takes place on the Staten Island ferry. Spider-Man interferes and winds up stepping in the midst of a arms bust that the FBI's been monitoring. This goes badly. The ferry nearly blows up. He gets cut in half. Tony Stark tells him, "You done screwed up for the last time. I need my high-tech suit back." Now, but I'm nothing without the suit. Well, then you don't deserve to have it. I mean, really, could we not have just had the John Candy moment from Cool Runnings? Because it seems like a poor attempt to imitate it. For those of you who've never seen the movie, John Candy has a really good line in that movie. A gold medal is a wonderful thing, but if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. Which is kind of the crux of the point that's being made here. So Tony revokes his probationary status because he's a menace. He's now on suspension, you see. He goes back to just being an ordinary kid for a bit, as ordinary as he can be. He gets a date to homecoming and finds out that his date's father is actually Michael Keaton, Adrian Toomes, and this leads to conflict. There's a showdown. Toomes is trying to rob Tony Stark. Actually, he's packing up the last of his stuff from Avengers Tower to move to their new base. His plan is to reroute the plane so that they can just steal it all, which is a great plan because there's no pilots. You see, it's all done by computers. Spider-Man foils this. They fight a bit on the beach. The wings blow up. The Vulture's wings explode as he is escaping. Spider-Man demonstrates true heroism by saving his enemy. Leaves everything there wrapped up for the proper authorities. Goes back to school. He gets his suit back from Tony. And I'm skipping a lot of stuff here because some of it needs to be addressed individually. There's elements of just fleshing out Peter's world that we're going to go into. I want to just kind of focus on the plot itself here. Anyway, he gets his suit back. His date, Toomes' daughter moves away because, well, now they can't afford elements of their lifestyle, and, well, we don't want to be here while our father's on trial, and there's reasons. It makes sense. He goes back to the decathlon. He is offered a spot on the Avengers. He turns it down because he feels he's not quite ready. He wants to just kind of be who he is at the moment, and maybe they just keep the spot warm for him. They end with that bit with the hint that Tony's finally proposing to Pepper. Spider-Man goes back, finds his suit, which is kind of the middle suit. He has the one that he made for himself. He has the one that Tony gives him in Civil War, which is the one he winds up with here. And they offer him a really tricked out version when he joins the Avengers that he doesn't take with him, obviously. So he goes to continue learning, continue his high school education, because, again, he's like 16. And as we close, it turns out Aunt May is going to find out that he's Spider-Man. Because he keeps his secret about being Spider-Man just about as good as Batman did in the Nolan trilogy.
All right, so I have a question.
Freaking everybody knows.
Before we get into this. MJ is not Mary Jane Watson. Michelle Zendaya, not Mary Jane Watson. Faye and Pascal said that's not the case. We never looked at it as a big reveal necessarily, but more of just a fun homage to past adventures and his past love, Feige said. She's not Mary Jane Watson. She never was Mary Jane Watson. She was always this new high school character, Michelle, who we know there's an M in Michelle and an M in Mary. So we're so clever, and we thought, wouldn't it be neat if her initials were MJ? Then I think it leaked that she would be playing MJ, and then it became a whole headache for Zendaya to have to navigate. Oh, poor girl. It was never a big, oh, my God, that's a big reveal. There are big reveals in the movie. That's not one of them. She's not Mary Jane Watson. Is she going to date Peter? Are they going to fall in love? She seems to be intrigued with him. There's a nice chemistry there. Who knows what will happen? All right, fine. So
I'd really rather she did not return for the sequel, but that's just me.
Well, you can talk about that. But, yeah, I just, my whole thing earlier was use elements that were established in the comic book for the personalities of these people being portrayed on film. Their race, unless it's Black Panther, which, Black Panther played by a white person probably doesn't work nearly as well, or Hispanic or Chinese Chinaman. Fine. But for like Mary Jane Watson, she can be any race, but she still has to have those character elements. Those are the things that you can't change that much of, not as harshly as they would have had she been this Michelle character. So glad to see they're not going in that direction. All right, good synopsis. Though I will say it isn't so much that Tony is ignoring him. It was that Pappy kept blowing him off. Most of the movie is a communication between Peter and Happy going, I have no time for you, child. I have this other thing I'm doing, and you are a pain in the ass. And then there's a line later on, right after the whole ferry fiasco, where Tony says to him, I was taking you seriously, and I was listening. That's why the FBI was there until you got in and fucked up the whole operation, which leads to him losing the suit temporarily. So, just wanted to add that little tidbit in there. Look, obviously, I liked the film. I went with a whole other family. I had my family there. It was universally liked. Everybody thought it was great. Where everyone compared it to the other Spider-Man films, I really couldn't tell you. I think every version of Spider-Man had its own flavor. You know, the Sam Raimi films were kind of their own thing, and the Amazing Spider-Man movies were kind of. Somebody referred to the Andrew Garfield portrayal of Spider-Man as the Poochie version of Spider-Man.
Yes.
And as much as
yes.
And as much as I've defended the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I can't argue against that. That's about right. He is definitely an amalgamation of whatever was popular in that moment. You know, he was definitely a Spider-Man that was drawn up by a boardroom. So what are you going to do? You know, but this one
not see the
was,
movie
I think,
and not recast him.
This,
fail so miserably, we give elements of the rights back to Marvel so we can start making money off of this property we paid through the nose for.
So this one was probably most reflective of the spirit of the comic books, especially the 60s and 70s iterations of Spider-Man. Now they do him up as a grown-up, and, you know, he's got a kid in one iteration of Spider-Man. So, you know, and he's gone through the mill. So it's like, I wouldn't say it's reflective of modern-day Spider-Man. I would say it's reflective of 60s and 70s era Spider-Man, just reset in a modern environment. I really enjoyed it. I thought, you know, there was an audible gasp when the reveal of the Vulture as what's-her-face's father, which I thought was great. You know, Liz. My wife kept talking about that. She was like, you know a movie's good when the entire theater gasps at the same moment. So I found that to be pretty funny. You know, I loved the aspect of, you know, I'm going to readdress something I said earlier. You know, what you got with the Sam Raimi films was it was a story about a girl. You know, it was being Spider-Man and wanting Mary Jane, you know, but feeling this sense of responsibility and all of that. And it just, those are the major themes of those movies. Whereas this one is you have what every boy wants for the most part. You know, he wanted to be a superhero. And then he became one. And not only did he become one, but he got to be in a huge fight in Berlin with Spider-Man, Captain America and Iron Man and all of these gods. Again, he got to touch the sun for just a moment. And, you know, it's as powerful as any drug to be that up close and personal with such strong entities. And then just as quickly he's told, okay, go back to being a regular boy.
Only the first one's free.
Right. You know, it'd be like if Pinocchio gets granted, you know, you get to be a boy, but only for a day, then you have to go back to being a puppet. You know, that would suck. And his arc of dealing with that and then coming to grips with it and saying, you know what, after everything that I've been through, I really do need time to figure this all out. And there has to be more to life than being Spider-Man. I thought that was superb. What a well-told story. I have to give credit where credit is due, and I know I'm going to get cut off by Winfree, so I'm just going to say it really quick and then shut up while he jumps right in and agrees with me. Top 3, top 4, top 5 villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Michael Keaton's Vulture. Virtually perfect. He had a great portrayal of the character, great motivations, great overall plan. You know, finally, we're not talking about a villain who is dead set on destroying the world with a big blue laser or anything like that. He's just a guy who got screwed over by the bigwigs, and he's trying to take care of his family, and he's, disenchanted, and, so he's stealing alien technology and making guns and selling guns. That's it. That's his story. And he isn't even dealing with Spider-Man until Spider-Man starts to become a nuisance in his operation. I thought that was fantastic. One of the best Marvel villains in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Go on. I know you want to say something, Mr. Everyone Loves a Bad Guy.
I agree completely, and we have a crappy heavyweight fight that got out of the first round. God hates me. No, I mean, first of all, Michael Keaton can make just about anything work. All right? Michael Keaton's a phenomenal actor. Here we have a character who doesn't start out evil. He starts out as you just get the sense in that opening sequence when he's, kind of helping with that cleanup. This is a very blue-collar guy, not in the sense that this is clearly his crew. He's in charge, but he's there. He's helping. He's intelligent. This is a guy who just shows up to work and works. And then the government craps all over him.
Yeah. You hear him
Which
say...
is a perfect metaphor for the Obama years. Sorry, don't mean to overly politicize this. No, I like that he was also anti-conflict. He steals things and resells them. He's not into combat. He's not into conflict. He's not into holding things hostage. He wants to do this low key, stay under the radar, keep his family well provided for, and move on with life. This is just a job to him.
Right. He's running guns. He's not robbing banks. And, even though we have a bank robbery scene, which, we'll talk about in a minute, he's not the one robbing the banks. That was the Shocker, who's basically just, a henchman with it. By the way, best line of the movie is, "You're running around calling yourself the Shocker. What is this, pro wrestling?" Yeah,
that was
I seriously
great.
Almost fell out of my seat. No, he's, like I said, he's running guns. And it's obviously it's not something he would have done had damage control not gotten involved. And it's he's not even, and it's he's not even tremendously, he is resentful, but it hasn't driven him to the point of idiocy.
No, he's not trying to take down the government. He's not trying to kill anyone. He's a little bit bitter because I don't want to be doing this. This is not what I want to do with my life. This is not what I should be doing with my life. And you guys kind of pushed me to this, but he's not trying to kill Tony for screwing him. He's not trying to topple the government or, take out a division of labor. He's just getting by. He found a way to make money, and he's good at it, and that's what he's sticking with.
Right. This isn't Marvel Revenge Plot number 63. This is, I actually found the plot of the movie and his motivations to be really interesting and spot on and fun and a good use of the Vulture character. I wanted to make sure we talked about that and give credit where credit's due because as we've said before on this show and on Robert's former Everyone Loves a Bad Guy, if there's one thing Marvel does not do well, it's their villains. Suddenly Zemo is...
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about Spider-Man the other day, and I actually broke into Suddenly Zemo. So anyway, let's talk about Ned and Zendaya and what is it? Jill is the other one.
Liz,
the girl that he's into. Liz and good old Flash Thompson. I like the Ned character. He was fun. Movies are not comic books. Comic books are not movies. And you needed a character for Peter to engage with. Yes, more people learn about his identity in this movie than in a Batman movie, but I'm okay with it. Again, the need for a secret identity, in the 60s era comic books, that was a thing. It was a thing they did. Everyone, including Iron Man, was keeping. Iron Man with, Tony Stark the way he kept that secret was to say that Iron Man was his bodyguard. And immediately in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they were like, and screw that. I am Iron Man. Cue the music. So, to harp on small details like that, I don't think is really fruitful. Giving him a Ned character, almost making fun of, or like parodying the Felicity, the guy in the chair. Felicity is the character on Arrow who is Overwatch. She's the gal in the chair. But, that person who stands by the computer and feeds information to the hero. On Flash, it's the gang from Star Labs, Cisco and all them. I thought that was great. I thought that was a trope that obviously is something you see in television, superhero shows, and in other movies. And they played with it, and they did something fun with it, and they gave it to this character so that I think it made Peter even much more relatable, because you have this character who is challenging him in a lot of ways. Now, obviously not physically, but, I go back to the jumping on the bed sequence. Mr. Stark treating me like a kid, but you are a kid. He's that character that's reminding Peter, I got to go stop the bad guys. We have a Spanish quiz. He's constantly reminding Peter that you have a life separate from Spider-Man, and you're flushing it down the toilet with this behavior. And you're doing a disservice to yourself and to Spider-Man.
Can I just say that that whole bit with him and wanting to do that, like, okay, well, something you have to know about me and why this bothers me. I have this bizarre fascination with American football culture. I do not care for the sport, but the culture around it is fascinating to me. There's a Netflix documentary called Last Chance U that goes into a bit about junior college and other collegiate athletes. And the over-reliance on this dream.
Turn off the TV.
Turn off the TV's off. It's this over-reliance on the ideal golden scenario. I don't need to think about college. I'm going to be an Avenger. I wanted to throw something. Because, and Mark, you work in a different area, obviously, but I imagine that you've seen people. I mean, you're a social worker, so I imagine you have seen people in rough circumstances who are betting everything on the long shot of athletic excellence. I don't need life skills. I have this.
I have absolutely met children who have had some pretty unrealistic expectations of a single-minded goal, or a single-minded attitude towards something, where they say, I don't need to do X, Y, Z. This thing in my life is all that I need, and so I'm just going to focus on that. And it's like, no, that's dumb. You have to have a little, wider range of things you're into, things you're doing with yourself, or you're going to, make a mess of things. So I have run into that before. Just that attitude in general of, I don't need to do these series of things that make good common sense. I just need to do this one thing and hope it pays off. Like, well, that's dumb.
It really is. And there's a lot of that from Peter for a significant portion of this movie, which is a fine story. I'm not knocking it. It's well executed. It fits the character. It fits the world as we know it at the time. It bothers me because I know people like that, and I want to push them into traffic.
I don't want to lose the point here. I thought the actor who played Ned did a good job of playing that character. I thought the character was useful. I don't know what your issues with him, you don't seem to have a problem with the character. You seem to more have a problem with the actor for some odd reason. But I don't think he was acting badly. You know,
No,
you take me out of the film.
I didn't make my point clearly there. Allow me to rephrase. I have no problem with the actor. He does the role just fine. He's one of those characters that I look at and feel, you're almost, there are portions of this movie where it's like, you're too stupid to live.
Okay.
You overhear a conversation where, people tease Liz about maybe crushing on Spider-Man, and you blurt out for the entire gymnasium to hear, Peter knows Spider-Man.
Okay, I see what you're saying now. Yeah,
again, on balance, he's fine. It's just that for me, the moments when he does something stupid are so glaring and so obvious. Like,
right?
How do you exist in the world when these decisions are made?
Yes, and he goes to a school full of geniuses. Yeah, I get it, but I think it's a lot of that's just, you got to remember, and I know you hate children, but you remember children are awkward and impulsive and nigh bipolar and will sometimes say and do stupid things despite themselves.
Now, there's a dance. What are you doing here in the computer lab? This is a Simpsons gag, mind you. This is like an actual Simpsons gag from the Mr. Plow episode. After Homer drives home from the bar and wrecks both the family's cars, the insurance adjuster comes out and says, "Okay, and you say you were coming home from Moe's. What kind of establishment is that?" And in Homer's head, we hear, "I can't tell them I'm coming home from a bar. They'll deny my claim." But what other kind of a store is open at 5:30 on a weekday? It's a pornography store. I was buying pornography.
Okay, so Zendaya.
It makes more sense in this instance because, look, I'm an overweight teenager in a school for geniuses, and I'm kind of a computer nerd. Yeah, I watch porn. But it was just one of those things that, like, I saw that and went, "You're turning into Homer Simpson at an alarming rate, sir. Please stop."
It was funny. It got a good laugh. Zendaya's character, Michelle. I don't know why.
Do you mind if I tackle this first?
Let me say this, and then you can have all the time you want.
I don't want a lot of time.
I don't know why she's in the movie. I don't know what point she's not the love interest. She's not the confidant. She's just there almost for sight gags. She has these one line, "Where are you going, Peter? Look, you're hiding something." No, I don't really care. I'm only here because I like to draw people in despair.
Crisis.
In crisis. Did we need another socially awkward, nerdy teenager? She's not the bully. Like, I didn't understand why she was in the movie or what purpose she served. She doesn't do anything of consequence. She adds nothing to the plot. It was just like, we wrote this character. We thought it would be funny. Zendaya's a thing. We'll get her to do it.
Is she a thing?
The extent of
Explain to me what kind of a thing she is.
I don't know, dude. I'm not like a 12-year-old girl. I don't know what a Zendaya is.
Okay.
I haven't even researched like who this character is or what. Hang on, Melissa, are you awake?
Yeah.
What the fuck is a Zendaya?
Is this like a legit question?
Yeah, now you're talking to a 41-year-old man and someone who's 7 years younger than that. We both are, again, men. We have no idea.
Hey, I'm 10 years younger than you.
Disney.
10 years, sorry.
She's a Disney chick.
Okay, so she's a Disney actress.
Yeah.
What shows has she been on?
What is that show called?
Why does she have one name like Madonna?
I honestly can't answer that question.
Okay.
But she's like a big child, like Disney.
Okay, she's like a Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
Like a Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, but she's like supposedly she's like talented.
In what way?
Like she can sing and dance and stuff.
Okay, so she can do all the Disney stuff.
Yeah.
She can sing, she can dance, she can act, and
she's like, you know.
Is she on the what do you call it? The show called The Evil Children?
The Descendants?
Yeah.
I don't think she's in that.
So what's she been on?
She has a TV show where she plays like a undercover agent.
Oh, that's her?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's on this fucking ridiculous show where she's like a teenage.
Like Casey Undercover or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing a handful of episodes of
Disney Channel's version of 21 Jump Street. Not the terrible movie.
Oh, so you know what I'm talking about. Where like her parents are agents and she's a secret agent, but she's a teenager and she has to balance being a secret agent with being a teenager.
Yeah, her best friend's like an idiot.
Yeah. All right, so that's what a Zendaya is. It's a Disney actress. Glad we got that covered.
Barely a thing. Gotcha. And going to turn into a train wreck in like 3 to 5 years.
I still don't know why she has one name. Like, you know, I'm not going to go on a Madonna rant or a Sting rant. Either stings. But, all right, to put a punctuation mark on this and hand it over to you, I don't know why Zendaya is in this movie. Other than the writers of this thought this character was a good idea.
Cut her out of the movie. Some fan out there, some enterprising fan of this franchise, do me a favor. I want a fan edit where she is excised entirely, and I want to see if it affects the film in any way. Just period, at all.
It won't. She has no bearing on the plot.
She's an utter waste of space. I mean, at least I got more as a viewer out of that weird teacher that coaches their academic decathlon. Mostly out of his line, I can't lose a student on a school field trip. Not again.
Not again. That's funny. He at least had a point. Are you watching MMA again?
Yes, there's a fight going. No, so again, that's why I just wanted to say no, why is she here? Not her as an actress, but that character is useless. It is a waste of time. It was a waste of time writing. It was a waste of money to hire someone, and it was a waste of film or digital space to record it.
I mean, she's fine as the character. I just don't think the character.
Yeah, sure. Another edgy outsider who speaks in 1 to 2 sentences at a time and tries to make people uncomfortable.
But she's just inconsequential to any part of the movie that matters. Anyway, the girl who plays Liz is fine. Again, to go back to Flash Thompson, the kid who plays Flash Thompson did a great job with the character as far as it was written. They wanted to make him a bully without making him like a physical bully. I thought it was a good representation of how you can be a bully to somebody without necessarily being physical. I know that was one of the issues that Pat Mullen had with this version of Flash. Like, why wasn't he more of a physical presence? Why wasn't he a big jock? They went to a science school. They specifically said this in the movie when they were talking about, is Peter going to get expelled? Oh, you'll have to go to your district school. This was a school this was like a magnet school, basically, specifically set up for science-oriented students. What fucking football player was going to show up here, to bully Peter around? Which, again, is different than the way it was portrayed in the 60s in the comic book. In the comic book, he went to his district high school where there was a fucking football team. This school doesn't have one, clearly. So it would make more sense that there would be like a rich Indian kid who thinks Peter is a worthless piece of shit and calls him Penis Parker. And throws his, weight around. And that even then, this kid doesn't always get over on Peter. When Peter decides he's going to do the decathlon just so he can be in DC and follow the truck to Maryland, he gets fucking put on the bench. They set up some good resentment between the two characters. There was clearly some underlying jealousy there that was manifesting itself as bullying, which I thought was nice if you bothered to look for it. I just thought the kid did a nice job and doesn't deserve death threats. And I thought this version of a bully in Peter's life made sense. Because I'll tell you what, if I go to school and a kid throws me a beating one day, I'll live through a beating. I can deal with a beating. To go to school every day and be called Penis Parker, and to have a kid just constantly writing me and getting others to make fun of me and being just this target, that to me is worse. So I don't see the value in necessarily creating a physical bully where one isn't necessary. Besides the fact that you can't physically bully Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, getting a kid who's going to, like they did in the Sam Raimi version where, they had the one kid who tried to beat him up, and then the kid took a beating from Spider-Man, basically. It doesn't work. It breaks the tension, whereas being a verbal bully to somebody who, isn't quite as quick-witted, I thought worked out. I thought it was better. So overall, I thought the last thing I want to say about this review is the one thing I was very anxious about was I thought they were going to overuse Iron Man. And I thought the conclusion of the movie was going to be Spider-Man and Iron Man taking on the Vulture. And that would have sucked, and I would have hated it. I didn't want, an Iron Man that moves the plot along and is a plot element is fine. An Iron Man who tag teams with Peter Parker to take on the villain, I think weakens the character. So I was glad that he showed up for just the ferry scene to fix Peter's egregious mistakes, and he almost killed all those people, and then not showing up again till the end of the movie was perfect. And might I say, again, a hero who saves somebody, even the villain, makes for a great superhero movie. Because it isn't just about punching things and creating, and leveling cities. Zack Snyder.
Look, the less said about Zack Snyder in this instance, the better. I agree with you a little bit about Flash Thompson. I agree that because they chose to set this version of Peter in a school for the gifted, you couldn't do the same, physical Flash Thompson character. I'd rather they called him something else, perfectly honest about... hang on, because... I think Flash Thompson specifically comes with a set of expectations. B is supposed to be used later in other forms that I don't think they can use this kid in.
No, this kid's not going into space and becoming Venom.
That's my big gripe. Like, you are now, like, monkeying with what you can do in the future. That said, his version of, a bully under those circumstances is fine. He's a rich, obnoxious douchebag who wears popped collared shirts. Like, this kid deserves to be punched in the face and couldn't actually handle life in a world where he could be punched in the face for being an obnoxious twaffle, right? And I have no problem with him in the greater scheme of, this is your low-level antagonist for Peter's daily life. Fine. Works fine. I would have preferred that he insulted Peter's race every now and then because there's a lot of ethnic diversity. There's not a lot of white people in that school.
Stop looking at the TV.
I have to type this out.
All right. Well,
all right.
You type,
No. So that's all I had for Flash. Highlight of the movie, easily Michael Keaton. I have a minor gripe about the action on the airplane. I found it very difficult to read visually.
Yeah,
there was a lot of same tones.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to criticize it too much because it was black airplane at night that is falling apart at the seams. That's also made to be invisible. So it's like, oh, well, that's your setup. How do you shoot this thing? And I think they did the best job they could with it. But yeah, it was a little hard to
The answer is
follow.
badly, right? I mean, look, they did the best job they could, but like you said, their setup was just, you were never going to get anything really good out of that.
Right.
A lot of the other stuff between the two of them I really did enjoy. Their brief little discussion right before he takes off to get the ship in the warehouse, not the ship, the airplane, was good. I mean, the other times they interacted, it was relatively easy to read, but the decision making that went into that fight on the airplane, I have to seriously question.
Yeah. I think it was a good idea on paper, and I don't think that anyone realized that shooting black on black on black on black on Spider-Man was it was such a great idea.
But other than that, I really have I think that's my only quasi-legitimate complaint. Let me say this, the other thing I have to say here, and this goes back to Michael Keaton. And not just the acting, but in this instance, specifically the way the character was written. It's nice when you have a character that remains true to what they have said, right? I mean, he doesn't kill Peter as soon as he realizes who he is, specifically because Spider-Man saved his daughter's life. And he says as much, like, you saved my daughter's life, that's why I didn't kill you. Which is fair, but stay out of my business from now on. Then, in the end, after Peter saves him from blowing up, when he's presented with the opportunity to exact vengeance while in prison, he doesn't take it. Because we've already established that he has the set of circumstances and morals that he lives by. And maybe he and Peter will square up in another way after he gets out, but for whatever reason, jumping into, having someone else orchestrate a hit from prison was not the way he wanted to go about that. And I really appreciate the fact that they wrote a character with a set of how I exist in the world. Again, everyone has morals and principles. And living with them and working with them and maintaining them is critical to proper character development and management. Here we had one who stuck to those even when a mustache twirly villain would have jumped all over. Oh, yeah, no. I know exactly who he is. Here's where he lives.
Right.
And here's what I'd like you to do.
He wasn't driven to rage by being defeated. He was like, all right, you got me. But, you got me fair and square, and, you go, I owe you at least a debt of, for saving my daughter. But it always was nice. At the very least, he might have been, we don't know if he was thinking, I will not ruin this kid's life, when he saved my daughter, even though he sent me to prison. That was, again, all's fair in love and war. Or if it was, I'm not giving you this kid's identity because I'm going to kill him myself. I guess we'll find out in Homecoming 2.
I don't know, again, just kind of the sense I got there was, no, he saved my daughter and he saved me when he could have let me die. I just stopped you from being murdered violently in your sleep by street thugs. We're even. Next time we meet up, gloves come off again maybe. But, again, I just am so happy that you had a character with consistency.
The guy he's talking to in the prison is the Scorpion, just FYI.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
All right. In the interest of time, we have 25 minutes left on a 90-minute show. So unless you have some burning desire, yes, no?
No, move on to the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar.
Well, Spider-Man was successful. On a $175 million budget, this thing's already made $268 million. Domestically, it's done $129 million. Over the weekend, I believe it did $117 million opening domestically and over $250 million worldwide. Yup, I would say this was successful.
Just a little.
Good job. Good job, Marvel. Can't really say good job, Sony. They just kind of sat back and watched. Venom next year ought to be interesting. But, yep, that's where we are right now. It was the number one movie of that weekend. You know, no shit, Sherlock. Over the weekend, Despicable Me fell from 1 to 2, Baby Driver 2 to 3, Wonder Woman maintained 4 for a second week. Transformers, a little bit of a big drop there, 3 to 5. Cars 3, 5 to 6. The House, 6 to 7. The Big Stick, or The Big Sick, went up somehow from 12 to 8. Shocky, 47 meters down, fell from 7 to 9. And The Beguiled fell from 8 to 10. Falling out of the top 10, Pirates, The Mummy, and Guardians was number 13 for a second week in a row. The worldwide, we got still number one with a bullet, Beauty and the Beast, then Fate of the Furious, and Guardians is staying around 800 million, currently at 858. Wonder Woman is number 4. It's still cranking away. I'll be curious to see if it breaks into 800 million. Pirates is, just chopping at Wonder Woman's tushy at 734 million. And rounding out our top 10, Logan, Kong, The Boss Baby, Transformers, as I said before, and Despicable Me. So I just want to, we have, two animated features are in the top 10 right now. 1, 2, 3, 3 comic book movies, 1 princess movie animated remake, and let's see, how many sequels are in the top 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the state of the world we live in, folks. That's it. Next week is Apes Together Strong, War for the Planet of the Apes. It's already certified fresh. It's a different audience than I think the Spider-Man audience, but I still think it's going to do well. I think there's a lot of hype for this movie. You know, it's very well received. Obviously, the movies have done well up to this point, so I can't imagine this won't do well as people want to see the conclusion of this Planet of the Apes trilogy. I'm sure it'll be number 1. Spider-Man close behind with number 2, and then we'll go from there. And that's kind of it with big releases this summer. That's the last of the franchise sequels. The following week you'll have a battle between Dunkirk, which we're reviewing, and Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. The week after that, you've got a kids movie and the Emoji Movie brought to you by the good folks at Sony. You fucking bastards. And you have another independent comic book adaptation starring Charlize Theron in Atomic Blonde. After that is The Dark Tower. And then after that is an Annabelle sequel and a Nutjob sequel, which is an animated feature. And after that is The Hitman's Bodyguard, which is a comedy, and Logan Lucky. So, yeah, like I said, after Planet of the Apes, the summer's pretty much over. We'll do a few more reviews. Like I said, we'll do Dunkirk and we'll do Atomic Blonde and The Dark Tower. And after The Dark Tower, we are closing up shop for the summer and we will, I think our next review after that is it. So, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, good sir, are you ready? Dum, dum.
Seriously, somebody put together a mashup of that DX intro into this, and we'll all be happy.
Oh my
God. Jesse, are you listening?
God! No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay, this person should lose their job immediately. Like, their editor should see what they wrote here. Number one, question their intelligence, and then number two, send them home with a box of their belongings. Scott Menzel of We Live Entertainment. Spider-Man Homecoming is better than Spider-Man 3, but not by much.
Oh, get out.
Did you fucking see Spider-Man 3?
No, he just Googled where they all ranked. He Googled where people ranked them.
Keith Watson of Slant Magazine. By partially demonstrating what a newer, fresher superhero might look like, Homecoming underlines its own genre-defined limitation. I'm going to leave it to you to make sense of that statement.
Well, first of all, it's inaccurate. All right, well, let's start with what you're trying to say here, buddy. You are trying to say that because this movie feels and is executed so differently from your typical Marvel introduction movie, they're basically showing how bad the other ones are. Which is really not true. I'm glad they broke from formula here, believe me. But formula exists for a reason. I mean, here's a fun little experiment for you, my friend. The next time you wish to, boil water, there's a formula for this. Instead of, say, applying heat, why don't you try sticking it in the freezer and see what happens? You want to make salt, but you don't want to use either sodium or chloride. Huh. Formulas exist for a reason. Relax yourself. Now, again, is this different from the other Marvel introduction movies? Yes. And, again, Mark and I have talked about the other ones being a bit formulaic. Sure. But that doesn't mean this doesn't bend the genre. Right? This isn't, and I hate to use this, so allow me to explain very briefly. This isn't The Dark Knight. Right? The Dark Knight took a comic book movie and did it in a completely different way, such that it actually warped what other people perceived. Completely, in many ways, redefined things. This is just a really good introduction, and it's not an origin story. Maybe that's what you're trying to say. Maybe what this guy's actually trying to say is, thankfully, no more origin stories. How dare you make origin movies?
Okay,
which is
I
stupid.
have to cut you off there. Because Scott Mendelson of Forbes magazine, one of our four horsemen of old man critics, disagrees with you. This is a de facto origin story, one that makes us wait for the sequel for a Spider-Man who isn't a menace to society. Okay, so A, he has failed in understanding what an origin story is, and B, doesn't understand what this character was in the comic book. Go get him.
Yeah, look, it's a de facto origin story. Well, sure. I mean, by definition, then, isn't Saving Private Ryan a de facto origin story for Tom Hanks? I mean, come on. Just because it's the first time we see him in a film doesn't necessarily make it an origin story. This isn't. He's already Spider-Man. Origin stories in a superhero context are, this is how they become. This is how, how Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man, how Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. This isn't that. He's already Spider-Man. I mean, by definition, an introduction is not the same as an origin. And really, someone as old as you should understand the difference. I mean, you have to look them up in your physical copy of Merriam-Webster's dictionary, which I'm sure you have on hand. But come on. Understand what you're trying to say here.
So, the pestilence of our four horsemen of terrible critics, Roger Moore of Movie Nation, of old man critics, cute, nothing more. Here is a man disgusted with his lot in life and doesn't want to review these movies anymore.
Yeah, look, Mark and I have picked up on a pretty serious trend amongst some of these guys that they want everyone to get off of their lawn. Guys, look, this is the state of film. If you don't like it, if you have legitimate critiques, level them. I mean, again, Mark and I were generally positive. Doesn't mean it's perfect. If you can't get out of your own way to talk about a movie, you're just fundamentally not doing your job. You are supposed to give the people a review as you see it, which is fine, but I mean, there's only so much bias that should go into this.
Robert Winfree didn't want to go see Transformers the last night. He went at gunpoint and gave you critical analysis. He is a better reviewer than you, Roger Moore, because he is forced to see movies he does not want to see in order to do this show, and comes back with a critical review of the movie despite not wanting to see it. You and your ilk keep going to these movies that you don't want to go see, but you're paid to go see, and then your reviews are nothing but whining that you had to go see the movie in the first place.
I mean, look,
Quit
if we
your
want to
job.
do that, I mean, really, if I wanted to just rant about a movie, I could do that. Believe me, it's in me. It exists. The capability to just sit down and go, this sucks. Here's my personal declarative statements, and I will brook no counter-argument. Here's what I hated about it. Oh, I hate the gobs of CGI. I hate the lead actor. I hate blockbusters, blah, blah. I could do that. I really could. But even though I am not paid for this, if I'm presenting this as a critique, as critical analysis, there's, I believe at least, an ethical obligation to set aside as much of my personal dislike as humanly possible to just review what exists, whether I like it or not. And you all should do the same.
I have said several times throughout the course of this show over the last couple of years, I was personally entertained. It's not a good movie.
Yeah,
or
it's an
I
easy
was
thing to
personally
say. You've said it. I've said it.
Right. Or I was personally bored to shit by this movie. But it was fundamentally, I do this all the time on Metal Hammer of Doom, another critical review show, only we're talking about metal albums until we do my rap playlist and I make Robert Winfree listen to it. Lush move. But again, I say this was a competently made album. These people knew how to play their instruments. There were interesting things done. I personally didn't like it. I was bored by it. I say it constantly on that show, more than this one. Fucking learn your jobs or quit. Go do something else. Walk into the woods and live deliberately. James Berardinelli.
Don't knock it till you tried it. That's all I'm saying.
Of Real Views, top critic. The movie lacks inspiration. Even the big twist is more worthy of a suppressed chuckle than a dropped jaw. It's like something pulled out of a bad soap opera. Ugh.
Okay, hold on. Well, okay, first of all, let's start with this. Just because something as a baseline bit, in this particular instance, your girlfriend's father is the one you've been trying to capture, that's not exclusive to soap operas. All right? Just because a soap opera uses a narrative trope doesn't mean that it's bad. Okay, now don't get me wrong. There are bad soap opera tropes. Okay? but the first time someone in a big budget, well-made movie comes out of a coma after undergoing plastic surgery as a means of explaining why you replaced the lead, the actor mid-shoot, we can have that discussion. All right, this was not that bad.
All right, we have a few minutes left. I want to get through a couple of these. Tony Macklin of TonyMacklin.net. This is his attempt to be cute. It's Peter Parker pastiche. Let's just move on. Robbie Collin of the Daily Telegraph UK, who likes the smell of his own farts. A little of the new Spider-Man went an exhilarating long way in Captain America Civil War last year, but a lot of them goes almost nowhere in this slackened, spiritless solo escapade. They fucking watched this. He didn't. No. This is another man who didn't want to see this film in the first place.
I mean, look, I understand the basics of characters that sometimes work in sparing roles don't work in starring roles. Jack Sparrow, for example, right? That's not the case here. I mean, to say that this movie has, no spirit and no soul, I mean, did you fall asleep? I mean, were you just cranky? Had you not had your daily dose of fiber? Did you take the red pills with the blue ends instead of the blue pills with the red ends? I mean, what are we doing here, old man?
Speaking of old men who didn't take their medication, Michael Smith of Tulsa World. I really like Holland's efforts to mix true blue-friendly neighborhood Spider-Man heroism with a teen boy's natural immaturity and awkwardness, but he needs a better movie.
No. I mean, really, it actually works quite well.
I don't know what he means by a better movie.
I got the biggest kick out of that scene, the scene when he first encounters the Vulture and gets dumped into the lake. When he's trying to catch up with them, and they're clearly doing a Ferris Bueller, and he's doing it worse than Ferris did, right? And then he actually runs through a pool party where they're showing Ferris Bueller's Day Off, in that same sequence where he's running to catch up, to get home before his parents do. There's a little bit of something you should probably look into here. Ferris Bueller, with, barely a hair out of place, makes this epic run through backyards and homes to arrive at his back door in the nick of time. Again, I don't think he even messed up his hair. Here we have a superhero constantly running into things and struggling to really get a sense of what he can do, how to do it correctly. I mean, there's subtext here, guys. You have to actually pay attention.
Or how about when he steals Flash's dad's car and he's trying to learn how to drive while driving? A great sequence. Michael LaSalle of the San Francisco Chronicle, top critic. The movie breaks no new ground. I love this line. The movie breaks no new ground, and action sequences that were intended to be thrilling, such as an epic battle on the Staten Island ferry, just sit there on the screen incapable of stirring a single pulse, but content in their competence. Like, I could feel the tension in the theater during the Staten Island ferry scene. I knew nothing was going to happen. They weren't going to kill an entire boat of people in a fucking Marvel movie. But there were people who, I remember, my wife, holding my hand and be like, oh, what's going to happen here? She thought that was the end of the movie, by the way. She thought the Staten Island ferry sequence was, the big epic conclusion. So I have no idea what this person's talking about here, other than their own, personal opinion. Again, lacking any ability to criticize the movie in an objective fashion.
It's one of those things where, I will complain if we're talking about Marvel movies as a whole about their lack of body count, about their lack of actual real-world results or, consequences of actions taken. Because I think it's a fair point. That doesn't necessarily mean that an individual movie has to be viewed through that prism. And more importantly, can we stop with the this breaks no new ground crap as some form of legitimate gripe? I mean, A, there's only so many stories you can tell. We've been over this. B, there's only so many ways you can tell them. I mean, what would you prefer? In all honesty, I want a superhero that breaks new ground. Good luck. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think it exists.
So I would have loved to have read all of these, but we've got about 5 minutes left, and there's a few that I have to read. Daniel M. Kimmel, New England Movies Weekly, needs to be kicked by a donkey. Aunt May seems to have discovered the fountain of youth. Rosemary Harris was 75 and Sally Field was 66. Marisa Tomei is 53. Aunt May will soon be younger than her nephew.
Do you not understand how, specific... Okay, let me start with something here for you, because this is a man who clearly watches soap operas and is used to characters being replaced. And just... The Sam Raimi trilogy is its own thing. Whatever they were with Andrew Garfield are their own thing. This is its own thing. It's the same character and name, but it's a whole different world, and they've gone with a younger version of Aunt May. It's their choice. If you have a gripe with that decision, make a gripe with the decision. That can be fair. Saying I don't like that you have the same character played in completely different worlds that are not connected at all, showing it up as a different version of that character is just stupid.
In what way is that even critical of, in any objective fashion? In what way is that critical of the movie?
It isn't.
We're not talking about Marisa Tomei's performance. It's just like, oh look, they keep casting younger women in this role. They also keep casting younger Peters. So he's 14, by the way, in this movie. Not 16. He's 14. 14
15.
or 15. One of the two.
He's 15.
15? Okay. I feel like Peter was older in, like he was a senior in the Sam Raimi trilogy. And
yeah, he starts as a senior. He actually graduates in the first movie, I seem to recall.
Right, and I feel like Andrew Garfield was around the same age because in the second movie he graduated.
Yeah, how dare you cast younger people? Get off. It's not that's not even a real complaint. Like, what are you doing?
53 is not, like an absurd age for his aunt to be. Get the fuck out of here. All right, I have two more to read. Fred Koppel of We Live Entertainment. A Spider-Man movie trapped in an Iron Man movie. You didn't watch this movie. Get the fuck out of here.
No. Oh, no, Robert Downey Jr. shows up. Therefore, it's an Iron Man. Get out. You do not understand the basics of storytelling, of film craft, of narrative, of tying your own shoelaces.
And the winner of the Are You Proud of That Line award for this series of criticisms, if they can be called that, the winner of the Are You Proud of That Line goes to Michael Stragow of Film Comment Magazine. The chorus of advanced raves has declared that Watts has hit the sweet spot. I'd call it sweet and sour.
Did you even say anything? I mean, that's a lot of words to say nothing. And I'm pretty good at that myself, mind you. I mean,
you certainly are, Reed.
Watch yourself. Reed Richards is a terrible human being.
We've been over this. All right.
Oh, you think I'm a terrible human being? Fair enough.
I gave you a compliment earlier. Shut the fuck up.
I know, and I appreciate it. It does mean a lot, the fact that you and I go through this crap and work so hard to elevate what we do here based on the general level of critical analysis worldwide. It saddens me. And as for this guy, just no. And to the editor who thought that should be the hook, no. I can yell at the guy for writing that. I know you're proud of that line. To the editor, to the webmaster who said this will be the hook for the story. Are you proud of that decision? Like, Of all the possible excerpts from that article, that's what you went with? Ugh.
Yeah. All right. Next week, it's all apes all the time. We've got source material, Tarzan on the Planet of the Apes. By the way, if you were looking forward to our source material on Spider-Man this week, shit happened. Jesse lost his internet. I didn't even read the book. It just didn't happen. Sometimes you plan for things and shit happens, as I said, and we couldn't get it done. So no source material on Spider-Man. Such is life. We'll get back on track next week with Tarzan on the Planet of the Apes. We'll be reviewing War for the Planet of the Apes. Metal Hammer of Doom will be reviewing The New Dying Fetus, Wrong Ones to Fuck With. And On Trial is back with Planet of the Apes, the Tim Burton version.
It's awful. I'll save you guys time.
Tomorrow night on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we'll be reviewing the new supergroup consisting of members of Biohazard, Sen Dog, Cypress Hill, members of Fear Factory. The band's called Power Flow. It's a rap metal project. I think it's fantastic. We'll review it tomorrow night on the Metal Hammer of Doom, the self-titled debut, Power Flow. And then Sean and I will be doing an on-trial for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, speaking of which. Poochie, The Amazing Poochie. The overstuffed sausage that lost Sony the ability to make a Spider-Man movie. But we're getting Venom next year, so that ought to be good.
No, it won't be.
As I said, the following week is all military all the time. We'll be doing Sergeant Rock Between the Hell and a Hard Place and source material. We'll be reviewing Dunkirk, and we'll welcome friend of the show, Andrew Graham. Despite
oh, wait,
Robert
if I've got
Cooper's-
someone else to lean on, I can actually probably do coverage in the show when we do Dunkirk.
No, I have forbidden it.
Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad, was it?
Sometimes felt like I was talking to a wall tonight. Metal Hammer of Doom, despite Robert Cooper's protestations, we'll be reviewing In This Moment Ritual. And then Andrew Graham and his wife will join me for a TV party. We're going to be doing the show 5 Came Back. So that's what we got going on. Why don't you go ahead and rip through your plugs, and we'll get out of here for the night.
All right, well, for the first half of the show or so, I was covering Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender series. If that happens to run over days we have episodes, I might have to talk with Larry about finding someone else to do that. I'm just like rereading what I had written there and whatnot, and it's not my usual.
Spider-Man. Fuck.
No, never did that. I was able to. I had the 2 tracks, and they were both going, and they didn't overlap. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see going forward. This may or may not become a thing. So.
And Joe Schmo link kick Spider-Man. God damn it.
I never typed any of the characters we were talking about into that. I just not even like, oh crap, I have to delete and then redo. No, I just never happened. So if you're interested in that show and that series on Fight Pass,
I think it would be hilarious if somewhere in your coverage you're like, and Zendaya with a roundhouse kick. God damn it.
No, never happened. That would probably be more interesting, just as a heads up. So feel free to read that in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania. Apparently, one of my readers really enjoyed the alternate commentary for this event provided by the duo of Uriah Faber and Snoop Dogg.
Sounds terrific.
I mean, personally, I'd rather, vomit for an hour, but... so you can read that. I had double coverage last week of UFC, the Ultimate Fighter Season 25 finale, and then UFC 213. You can read both of my reports in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com. this coming Sunday, I believe, is UFC Fight Night 113. I will have coverage of that, so give that a listen, give that a read, follow along. Should be something. And if that ends in time for the 411 Ground and Pound radio show, we will be having one. But I'm not sure what time that event starts on Fight Pass or will necessarily end on Fox Sports 1. So that's up in the air at the moment. If it doesn't occur, we can't have that show. There's already a brief preview on this past Sunday's episode where Pat and I talked very briefly about UFC on Fox 25. So you can get brief preview thoughts on that. I think that's it. Again, Mark and I will be back next week where we will talk about Woody Harrelson's battle with Andy Serkis. Should be. I am so excited for this movie. This is the movie this is like my second most personal hyped movie of the year. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I think the new trilogy as such has been really excellent. The first was drugged down by James Franco because, well, James Franco sucks. The second one was excellent. And I think this one seems to be even better than that one. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's all I've got to plug. So thank you all for listening, for dealing with us. Feel free to leave comments on the Facebook page. If you thought I sucked tonight, please let me know. I don't want to just take Mark's word for it. So again, feedback's always appreciated. As long as it's something more than a long string of profanity, basically. We have low standards here.
Remind them to send you also their favorite rap songs because you want to get into that type of music. Send Robert Winfree links to rap music.
Do not send me links to rap music. You will be wasting your time. I will never click on them.
Winfree MMA. He's looking for rap videos to watch.
I hate you.
You're welcome. Hit the music.
All right. Thanks again for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week. Until then, please continue to be well, be safe, and behave.
Once upon a time, there was a new crossover that refused to play by the rules. It flipped the script and made all the others look like fools. Featuring styling that's sexier by far and handles like a rock star. Introducing the first ever Toyota CHR.
Enjoy agile handling in the body of a seductive crossover that comes with standard 18-inch alloy wheels. The first ever Toyota CHR. The perfect ride to spin your own tail. Toyota. Let's go places.
Wingstop lives flavor, and you crave it. That's why we've created the boneless flavor fix for you and your crew. 20 boneless wings, 4 flavors, 2 fries, 2 dips, and 2 cold drinks for just $20. Whether it's lemon pepper, Louisiana rub, or atomic, finding your flavor combo is easy. But deciding who you're gonna split it with, that's a different story. The boneless flavor fix. Just $20 for a limited time at Wingstop. The wing experts. Prices and participation may vary. See local restaurant for details.